Why, hello, everybody, and welcome. I'm Random Randy, and today we're going to jump into a little bit of geography. Um, if you're tuned into the podcast at all, I've got a couple episodes up, kind of having to do with ascension, spirituality, kind of progress in this game of life, right? And, on that note, I decided to see if I could find one of these maps, right? These maps that show the different dimensions, pertaining to different chakra and things like this. So I go and I type in uh, Ascension map after I tried map of dimensions and didn't really get too far. Got like the basic, tree of life stuff, but that was about it. But anyway, so I type in map of Ascension, right? And what do I get? I get Ascension Island. Okay. And it's pretty interesting. This place, there's like so little information about it other than it was a top secret facility in World War II, um, and on and on. And we'll go through some of that stuff here in just a minute. But I wanted to take you guys with me on this and show you what we're looking at here. And what struck me as interesting is it's kind of, we'll call the Atlantic Ocean here, like the entire Atlantic Ocean could be, where Atlantis was, right? That's the idea anyway. Um, of course, we have the Straits of Gibraltar up here, but so I mean, that just leaves the entire Atlantic Ocean open for possibility, right? So, of course, Bermuda is probably the go to for most people. Like, oh, definitely Bermuda is where Atlantis was. It's even a nice tetrahedron triangular shape here, right? And if you've looked into Atlantis and the fall of Atlantis and all of that stuff at all, you will find out that the reason or the cause of the destruction of Atlantis was they essentially tried to build a artificial what's called Merkaba, sorry. And basically what it is, it's an artificial light body. Could be the technology that we see in UFOs. That's all on the table. Possibilities are pretty epic, and there's tons of them when it comes to this topic. Now, so if you weren't looking specifically straight out of the gates of Gibraltar here, which is looks reasonable to me where you would find it, right? Another thing about Atlanteans is that they supposedly do actually still live underwater in this area. Okay. And they're the ones that we see drawn on pictograms of having, a helmet on, a breathing apparatus, because they do apparently breathe differently than we do. Um, that's the idea anyway. But let's go down south here. Let's head to the south. Further down along this, mid-Atlantic trench, we come to a place known as Ascension Island. Tiny little place out in the middle, literally the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, right adjacent to, a deep ocean trench. All right, so we're going to zoom in here and we'll see if it gives me the option to do the street view again. Of course, now that I've got you guys on, it's not showing me the street view. But it did just a minute ago. Let's see if I can get the right. Well, isn't that just frustrating? It's almost as though it knows that I'm reaching out to y'all out there. There they are. Okay. So we're going to take a look at the street views here. Let's fly on in here to Ascension Island, everybody. Welcome. And as you can see, vast majority of the island is essentially whited out. But we do have these nifty little perspectives here. And they really are incredible. Let's put that away. It really is an incredible looking place. You know what I mean? Just beautiful. And supposedly it's a volcanic island, right? And we'll look at some more pictures just to kind of demonstrate, what this place really looks like. It looks like a foreign planet. It looks like it could very well be Mars, right? And keep in mind this is like a top secret Royal Air Force Base facility on this island. So this is the Oceanic Area 51, if you will, right? So you see that we have some, above ground structures, some brush and things like this, relatively low resolution images of this place. Very interesting mounds of earth, right? And if you're into geography and things like that, mounds of earth are kind of strange, right? Especially soft earth. So we're told that this is volcanic, and it may very well be. Seems as though we have a higher peak over here. You know what I mean? But we have a lot of really red oxidized dirt. That's interesting in itself. Mass volume of antennae kind of spread out throughout the island, as we'll see here. And keep in mind, this is an Air Force base, located on this island. So basically, we're supposed to believe and understand that, like, listen, all of this stuff is volcanic. Sure. I mean, that's cool. I'm good with that. You know what I mean? But let's take a further look. We'll look at the other couple of street views really quickly. We'll pan back out a little bit here. See if it offers them to us. Maybe a little further. And sometimes it takes a moment to pull up those prompts. But so we'll just have to be patient. And that's another part of this existence, at least seems to me, is the patience. But as you can tell, like, look at how kind of blurred out the ocean surrounding the area is, but you go a little bit out of the way and you start seeing more detail. And Google Earth throws red flags no matter how you look at it, no matter what you're looking at. And well, anyway, we can probably get the images of of these other street views once we go over here to the images. But first, we want to take a look at what is Ascension Island. Okay, so through all of the Merkaba talk and the idea of ascension, right? Of lifting your vibration, your soul, your spirit up to interact with higher dimensions. That idea can also be called waking up, right? For a lot of us. And we have some interesting information is what I'm driving at on some namesakes of this island. Okay, Ascension Island, an isolated volcanic island, 1,000 miles from Africa, 1,400 from South America, governed by the British Overseas Territory of Saint Helena, Ascension, and Tristan da Cunha. Okay, so halfway to the Antarctic Circle, named after the day of its recorded discovery, right? The ascension of Jesus. Ascension Island was an important safe haven as a coaling station to mariners, refueling stop. So the typical, right? Back in the days of international air travel by flying boats. Okay. That might be something else we'll have to look into, is flying boats. But anyway, during World War II, it was a naval and air station, providing anti-submarine warfare and bases in the Battle of the Atlantic. All right, the island's location of RAF Ascension Island, Royal Air Force Station, a European Space Agency rocket tracking station. Signals intelligence, so we saw those antennas, right? And hosts one of 4 ground antennas that assist in the operation. Get this, guys, all you flat earthers will love it, of the Global Positioning System navigation system. Wow. Hey, listen, if these were satellites up in the air, why would we need antennas on these islands? That's kind of strange, don't you think? So it has purposes. Supposedly it tracks orbital debris from that area, a meter class on an autonomous telescope, MCAT. Okay. So it's interesting. It's interesting. Here's the discovery, and it's much like everything else we see. Things kick off right around the year 1500, and Joao de Nova sighted the island on Ascension Day. Okay. That's why it's called Ascension Island. It has nothing to do with the fact that it may very well have been part of the Atlantean Empire. And this Atlantean Empire, as many of you might know, was incredibly obsessed with ascension. But keep in mind, this was supposedly, right? Like 8 to 12,000 years ago, from what we're told, 13,000 years ago. And if you follow the yugas, you follow the cycles of time put across by ancient Sanskrit documents and things, you find out that there's periods of time where humanity essentially loses its spiritual aptitude. Now, what happens when humanity loses that spiritual aptitude is it tries to build it with technology, right? And we're just coming out of, supposedly, this is all hearsay. None of us know anything 100%. So, you know, it'll be fine. Anyway, so they build technology to reestablish this communication with the gods or with higher dimensions, higher selves, um, ancestors, however you'd like. Because, at some point in the past, the natural system that was a part of this earth was wiped out, much like in the movie Avatar. Very similar, right? And so that's the idea, anyway. Now, these folks supposedly created a artificial light body or a means to interact with this other dimension. And this supposedly is what happened to Atlantis. Okay. This supposedly is what happened to Atlantis. And that's what caused its destruction and caused, basically the last ice age to happen. Um, Essentially like a similar to a nuclear winter. Okay. And Atlantis would have been centered maybe out here, but this would have been all along this rift, would have been where the land of Atlantis was. So what we're told is by typical geography, we're told that it pulled apart over time, right? But what we're being led to understand or believe through some of the kind of esoteric teachings is that this was all land before. This was all a culture land. We had on this side, we had Atlantis, and supposedly on the other side, we had Lemuria, right? So is it possible that this was all one giant culture running along what this rift now is? Did they shove themselves into the void or into the rift by creating this artificial light body or communication device or ascension tool, right? That's the idea. Okay. And I find it interesting that right in the middle out here, we have Ascension Island. Now, another interesting thing is when you look at the shape of this mid-Atlantic area, it's almost a mirror, within reason, guys, use your imagination. It's almost a mirror of exactly what we have here. So is it possible that we have a mirror America and a mirror Africa and Europe sitting off the coast underwater, possibly in a different dimension now because of the mishap with that artificial Merkaba? I think it's very possible. So many things are possible, and we're just denied the understanding of that. And I think it's garbage. And we need to be able to grow our understandings through possibilities. I think that's super important. A lot of people beg to differ, but more power to them. They can beg and differ all they want. Anyway, Ascension Island. Okay. So we looked at what it is, who discovered it. 1701. 60 men survived for 2 months until they were rescued. So we have the castaway scenario here. It's possible, but disputed, the island was used as an open prison for criminal mariners. So exile, right? Punishment for sodomy, that sort of thing. Wow, dude, brutal. So an organized settlement began in 1815. This is the century in question, everybody. The 1800s. What the heck was happening? some grand reset, something like this, the reemergence of essentially the Atlantean Empire or the Martians, right? Implementing maritime law, etc., in the 1800s, would have been probably slowly building over several hundred or thousand years before that to get to the point where they are now, where they have now reestablished technology and are building these artificial light body type things similar to CERN. Okay. Something neat to note is Ascension Island has just beautiful, beautiful old growth, like crazy stuff, right? So, this is the part you don't see when you come in and look at this map. All right, we'll zoom in and I'll show you what I mean. And it's fishy, you know what I mean? It's so fishy when you get looking into Google Earth. There's so many weird things. Is that by design? Possibly. But look at this. You get down in here, and of course, this is all military. So sure, they're gonna block out a lot of it, right? But I mean, the ocean around it's all fuzzed out. We have one small piece that you're able to view here. There's the Air Force Station. But look at all of this. And I'm telling you, like, this is augmented. This is not, it should be looking more like this or this. So you see, they select the kind of the filters they want to use and show you about what's going on this island. And, you zoom in and you don't get any more clarity. You can see the radar installations here all whited out. Everything's whited out. And I mean, this is more whiting out than almost anywhere I've seen that is a land, you know, a place on land anyway. So, make of it what you will. It's strange to say the least. Very strange. It's very interesting the filters that they're using to kind of block these areas out, right? Wonder what's going on with these clouds. Are they real? Are they not real? Say that one might be, but these look a little weird. You know what I'm saying? Know what I mean, man? It's just weird. It's weird. The name is weird. The island is weird. It's in a weird place. All right, let's take a look at the Royal Air Force Ascension Island Wikipedia here. So we're going to take a look. All right. U.S. Space Force tracking station at Cat Hill. Okay. A Nike Zeus test facility, tracking reentry vehicles. Now, something interesting is like, listen, are they tracking reentry vehicles or are they just tracking those rockets that are getting launched off of Florida and making sure they know where to find them in the middle of the ocean? So, flat earthers, that's a nod to you. All right. Anyway. Okay. It is part of the Space Force Delta 45, right? Look at that. Yeah. Space Force. Love it. So, belongs to partially Space Force, Royal Air Force, transmits microwave-borne data via the Early Bird satellite. What is that? So it just really makes you wonder. Absolutely makes me wonder. So anyway, what was I driving at here? All right. Anyway, so you see that they're now currently over the last year repairing all of the runways and stuff that go there. And the interesting thing is this is called, where is it? Wide Awake Island. And so the coincidences just keep stacking up, and being awake to certain spiritual things and other dimensions and things is been come to be known as waking up. Okay. So then we have Wide Awake. The Wide Awake News was the name of the newspaper in 1942 to 1943, while folks were stationed there during the war. And the work being done on the island is top secret clearance, and none of the other U.S. Army rank and file staff were allowed cameras. So there's something there. There's something going on there. It's very similar to Area 51, very fishy. Don't ever hear anything about this place. I've never heard anything about it. I bet, many of you have not also. Old, really cool old growth trees that we don't see in the pictures. And we're going to take a look at some images here. And yeah, so I just want to put this out there. This is a strange place, guys. I've not heard anything of it. Of course, being an army base or a military facility, why would he? Now, no fishing apparently is allowed in the marine protected area, which is cool. I dig it, right? A runway crack, so there apparently is some form of activity there. Okay. And it's a beautiful looking little place out there. We've got these strange structures from what I've seen kind of throughout the island, and it's only ever just like a room. This really leads me to wonder what this little outpost building is there for. You know what I mean? Really, what is that? What's going on there? I personally have some thoughts, and I believe that there's some form of underground facility. Here's Wide Awake Airfield down here. Wide Awake Airfield. And, look at the structures we're looking at here. Of course, right? Volcanic. That's it. Don't worry, just volcanism. It's not that anything's buried out here. That would be silly. Silly, right? It'd just be silly. All right. There we go. Georgetown. Why it's downloading this picture. I don't know. I think I just got a virus, guys. Who knows? But we come to this place and we see structures, volcanic structures, right? But look at this. Look at this. Of course, you can't get too much closer. You can't get too many pictures. This looks like a wall to me, guys. And it runs down along here. I mean, look at this. Some form of, different types of stone and things. And, this just falls right into line with like the plasma and flood apocalypse theory that seems to have happened in the past. Between electricity and water, we would have a lot of this damage happening here. So that would be a significant amount of water, kind of like Randall Carson talks about in the Scablands. We had a massive amount of water flow over this island. How exactly that happens, is really the question. And of course, we don't know 100%, but we have supposed volcanoes here, right? And yes, there's a lot of earth that is in strange places on this island. So it's wild. It's a weird place. It's really cool looking. It has so many features that are beautiful and unique. Let's take a look at the airfield a little closer here, right? And then sitting on top is of course, a radar outpost. Now, something I'll point out is you would not build this stuff up here, guys, unless you had some ballast, something to stand it on underneath. You know what I mean? So this isn't just like volcanic soot. This is stable. This is stable area on a volcanic island enough that they're going to build their multi probably million or billion-dollar facilities on top of this mountain, this hill, this bluff, right? So, it's interesting. Enlightenment, awakening, ascension, then I find brings me back full circle to hidden history and geography and all of this. You know what I mean? And I don't think it's a coincidence, everybody. I think it's all hand in hand. And I think that this place we're taking part in is designed for that purpose. I mean, look at this Beautiful, reminiscent of an old church, looking fairly new as well. Beautiful stuff. Interesting landforms. Very strange place. And there's some very strange, structures here. And here it is looking incredibly volcanic, maybe like it hasn't been in some times as there's shrubbery and things growing. But we have these interesting structures back here. And I'm of the understanding and belief that beneath our feet, everybody, there's so much to the story that we've been told, that we haven't been told. Sorry. Okay. It comes up to a nice pointy peak. And this is the beautiful little community on Ascension Island, complete with massive antennae all around. So, what are your thoughts on this? Is it strange? Is it strange that the GPS system needs this island out in the middle of nowhere to facilitate GPS? Is that strange to anybody else? Okay, and so here's an actual photo. Okay. And what can we notice? Let's just start at the top. We notice we've got the cloud cover in key areas, blocking out the site there. Okay. Go to the side here. Some very interesting, possibly carved landforms. Maybe this was mined in the past. Maybe it flowed this way. There does seem to be some activity taking place here. It appears as though that smoke or fog is coming off of the ground instead of sitting above it. Maybe it's interesting from this perspective to try to understand that. We have outposts of all sorts spread out throughout the island, beautiful beaches. Okay. Beautiful beaches. Got to have the ball field, right? Adjacent to this place. The airfield with facilities stationed on top of these hills. Now, again, these hills, they're really soft, just volcanic debris. They wouldn't build on top of it. You might say, well, they'll just build foundation. Sure, they might, but how deep's that foundation going to have to go on a volcanic island? Again, these are just thoughts, everybody. So if it ain't your cup of tea, then oh well. But anyway, more and more becomes strange, interesting, coincidental. The more we look into what we're doing here. What is this place? What is the purpose of the control structure? Right? My personal understanding and belief is that we're here to learn something. Possibly this is an interview of sorts. Possibly we're finding our way back to God. There's a lot of possibilities and they're all really beautiful. So, I encourage you to look into those possibilities. Now, I'm going to read a snippet out of BBC. Okay. And I'm going to read it because if I pull it up, it'll probably get flagged for copyright. So, Ascension Island is a tiny dot of green in the tropical mid Atlantic, a volcanic outpost of empire. A volcanic outpost of empire, where it's hot and cold at the same time. This is a place where Charles Darwin helped inspire an alarming change, writes Matthew Teller. So, officially, they say nobody's from there. About 800 citizens. To enter, you have to get permission from the Queen's representative, known rather chillingly as the administrator. So, I mean, it gets weird. Guys, start looking into this stuff. It's like, what's going on here? The airport, longest in the world, once was the longest in the world, designed to accommodate the space shuttle. Why? Why would there be a runway for the space shuttle here? Unless, everybody, flat earthers, shout out, unless the space shuttle's taken off from Florida and flying, or sorry, getting shot up in the air. Back over here in Florida, right? Out of sight, out of mind, completely out of sight, off radar of everybody. Up, and then cruises on in, glides right in. Because we do know that the space shuttle was pretty effective at gliding. Incredible, right? It makes perfect sense that you would need to have this out here if that's what you were doing. If you were sending stuff to space and you needed somewhere to land it that nobody's going to see, nobody's going to know what's going on out here or up here for that matter. And maybe we'll have to take a look and see if there's other islands up this way. But you know, it's just it's crazy. It's crazy. Completely crazy. Of course, Darwin's involved with this. You know what I mean? Here's the Royal Marine Barracks. So, you know, and these are 1800-esque, you know, buildings and things, right? Clearly the facades have been kept up. And it's always the same players. It's always the same players in this game. Always. So, that's the crest, official seal of Ascension Island. Hmm. Interesting. Ascension pointing upward, correct. Three birds, three little birds perched by my doorstep, singing sweet songs. We got the triangle, a melody pure and true, right? So, I mean, make of it what you will. Same characters, same strange island, same weirdness that we see just about everywhere, you know? And we got to make sure we put some cannons there so that it looks like an actual outpost, even though what's around it, nothing. But look at this mountainside here. Just incredible, incredible landforms, beautiful beaches, hard volcanic stone. Interesting thing is there's similar beaches to this with this hard volcanic stone in Southern California. We don't hear much about that being volcanic, though, do we? So what's going on here? You know what I mean? But anyway, back to and look at we've got pine trees. A lot of stuff doesn't make sense. Did they take these out here? Probably, right? But we got ferns and some little jungles and stuff. And we've got all of these beautiful mounds of earth. How did those get there? That's weird. Looking very similar to mounds all around the world that are hiding things. But anyway, here we go. Operated by the US Air Force, grants limited access to Britain, supposedly, right? But it's a British colony, basically. So NASA tracked the Apollo moon landings from Ascension. Gosh, that really makes me wonder. European Space Agency monitors rocket launches from here. Here, hilltops across the island festooned with aerial arrays and satellite dishes. But who is listening and to what? Nobody will say. Very, very interesting stuff. The the birds there are known as the wide awakes for their constant cawing chatter. Very strange, guys. Super weird. They say that it may have been erupting as recently as the 16th century. Settled in 1815. Yet sailors visiting in 1726 discovered a tent and a diary. They turned out to belong to Leendert Hassenbosch, Dutch mariner, and was sent there as a punishment for homosexuality. Diary records discuss his desperate search for water and supplies as he resorted to drinking the blood of turtles and seabirds and eventually his own urine. The poor man's fate is unknown, and no skeleton was ever found. Incredible, right? It wasn't until 80 years later that the British garrisoned Ascension Island. This in an effort to discourage the French attempts at rescuing Napoleon, who had been exiled to St. Helena, the nearest point of land 700 miles to the southeast. But the island apparently is entirely destitute of trees, said Darwin. Yeah, we find these here. Of course, they could have brought them there, right? So that's the parts that are like whited out, is we don't see this light jungle kind of canopy there. So it's wild, super wild, right? Interesting land and wildlife. This is like an ocean chicken. Okay. So it's interesting, right? These are those wide awakes that we were talking about. That's what they call them, birds. So weird, right? Ascension Island. Its highest point is 2,817 feet. So supposedly grasses were introduced, and all of the soil was brought there and placed. The vegetation was planned, says a biologist. And the tree I just shown you were giant ficus trees. And he says it's a few minutes drive from the sweltering lava plains. So it's just weird, guys. Super weird. A few fragile grasses grew there before. Wow. So it's crazy. It's just wild, just weird stuff. And they've got like exact numbers for the number of bushes on the island. Some weird stuff, guys. Just so strange. Green Mountain is the name of the hill where they planted all of this stuff. And something I'm noticing about when things are planted on top of stuff, it's generally just to enshroud whatever was there. You know what I mean? We had the pier. Very interesting structures. Very interesting. So weird. So wild. Sheer walls, looking very bricky or stony. And we see this in so many other places. Grand Canyon. I mean, so many other places. Look at this. Okay. It's weird, right? Am I the only one to think that? Very interesting. Ascension Island, everybody. Look at the interesting patterns coming off of the island itself. Almost looks as though it's vibrating, right? And it would, right? It wouldn't if it was volcanic, it would be putting off some form of vibration. So there's something very special about this place. What that is exactly, I don't know. I don't know. But I know that I've never seen anyone look into it. Maybe I'm just behind the times, but get this. There's a thing on BBC, and it's called "Costing the Earth, the Mars of the Mid-Atlantic." The Mars of the Mid-Atlantic. So names, I don't hold them as coincidence, guys. Just saying, it's not a coincidence that it's called the Mars of the Mid-Atlantic. Okay, it's just not a coincidence. None of this stuff is. Nothing in life is. Everything is here for us, for our purpose. What is our purpose? Many have an opinion on this. My opinion, as of late, and this may change, is the great work, spiritual alchemy. the growth and integration of our lessons. I mean, all of these are very controversial, unfortunately, topics. You know, they really are. But if you're not into that sort of thing, guess what? We've got an island just for you so that you can ignore your great work and simply call Ascension an island. So that's what I've got today. An interesting little tidbit, right? And yeah, so we'll probably get into some more strange things about history relatively soon. This is something that made itself known to me uh looking into some scripture and different teachings and different things about ascension on a personal level, and wouldn't you know, on an external level, we also have an interesting thing called Ascension Island. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in once again, and much love to everyone out there. And I hope that your journey is going well and being fruitful for you. Amongst all this crazy world, what else can we do but work on ourselves? Have a great day.